We're going to talk a little tech with CARMI Levy, our CTV tech analyst. Hey, CARMI, it's like hacking week, the way things are going. It's like one story after another. I should preface that by saying, and this kind of doesn't fit in, I see the FBI has made an arrest in that story in the U.S. where those documents were leaked. They arrested a 21-year-old man who worked for I guess he was working in the Air National Guard, 21 years old, and he's the one who leaked these documents. They say the most sensitive documents that have been leaked in quite some time, but that's another story. I brought up this idea that I'd never heard of before called juice jacking. So explain to everyone what that is and why you should be extra careful when you're using someone else's plugs or cables or whatever else.
So you know how when you're in the airport or you're at the mall or some other public place, they always have these charging stations where you can walk up with your phone and just plug them in. There are USB ports there. Sometimes there are cables there too, charging blocks. And isn't that great? You just charge your phone up, no charge. But the problem here is that hackers know this. They know that we're using them more often. They know that we're out and about more as the pandemic fades into the rear view. So what they often do is they will compromise those plugs. They will replace them with plugs that don't just charge our devices, but they also hoover off data from our devices. They track, they install malware on our devices. They listen to where they track our key presses, so usernames, passwords, authentication information, and then, of course, they share it with the mothership. So the problem here is you plug it in, it's really stealthy. You don't know that you've been compromised until you start getting attacked elsewhere. So the warning from the FBI, and they've been warning us about this for years. We've known about this for about a decade, but they periodically remind us because they're seeing more cases like this, is that when you're out and about, do not plug into a port that you don't know. If you see a USB port, even if your battery is dying, resist the urge to plug in because you'll probably be getting, or you may be getting, a lot more than just power. You may be getting a giant virus or malware on your device.
So wait a sec. Even if I use my own cables, my own anything, I should still not use a public USB port?
Yeah, because
it
depends on how they set it up. They might have compromised the USB ports, or in some cases they might have used a cable. There's a cable and a charging block left behind, and it looks convenient. But you know what? Sometimes those cables have circuitry installed that does the malware installation for the hacker. So that may be just a dirty cable. So you certainly never want to use a plug, a USB port, or a cable that you're not familiar with. Now, if you have your own charging block and your own cable, okay, you can plug it into the electrical outlet because that can't be compromised, but never a USB port that you're not familiar with, never someone else's cable.
What about on a plane?
Same thing. You should look at them the same way that you look at the floor on the plane or the floor in the washroom. Never touch it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, as soon as you do, contaminated beyond belief.
Geez, that's a solid piece of advice. Okay, I mentioned we would bring up, because this is a big deal too, we actually asked a Hydro spokesperson about this. So she said it was around 3 this morning. They realized they got what do you call that, a demand? What is it called again?
It's called the DDoS, or Distributed Denial of Service.
That's what it's called.
Yeah,
of course.
And basically what the way it works is, the good news here is this is not a sophisticated attack. What it is this Russian group, this hacking group, that's claimed responsibility for it. And what they do is they coordinate just a swarm of requests to the web server. Load this page, load this page, load this page.
And they overload it.
And
okay.
Exactly. And so they're not actually breaking in. They're not stealing any data. They're not compromising anything. But because they're overwhelming it with requests, basically it means that no one else can request it. So if you and I tried to visit the Hydro website overnight, pieces of it simply crashed under the load and we couldn't access them. So it's incredibly inconvenient. It's incredibly annoying because you can't stop the global internet community from targeting your website. It's one of those attack vectors that literally anyone can be victimized by. And unfortunately, because Canada has provided assistance to Ukraine to fight off the Russian invasion, Russia has decided that Canada is one of those countries that is going to be targeted increasingly in the digital space. And we're starting to see this. Hydro-Quebec last night, the Prime Minister's website earlier this week, a number of ports across Canada were compromised in a similar way. They're all denial of service attacks, and it's all to send a message to Canada.
Okay, so it's not about money anymore. It's just about inconvenience.
No. Exactly, and it's about the government of Russia, because this is how they do it. They're one of the world's top sponsors of state-sponsored cyber warfare and cyber insecurity and cyber crime. It's about Russia saying, we have the digital tools to make your life miserable, and we're going to pay you back. That is the way Russia operates. It's the way they've always operated.
Great.
They have a very deep well of skills in the cyber insecurity world, and unfortunately, they're using it against us.
Well, then my worry is, okay, if this is basically a shot across the bow, like a warning, does that mean it could get much worse if they wanted to make it worse? Is that how vulnerable our systems are?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but yeah. And I think we have to recognize that the threat landscape is becoming even more threatening, more turbulent. And Russia isn't going to ease off on the gas pedal. They're simply going to press down. And Russia is not the only country that does this. We know China, North Korea, Iran. They're the other big, the other of the big four sponsors of this. And so we know that they'll be involved as well. Everyone loves to pile on. And so I think we have to be prepared for more disruptions like this. And I think if you are the government of Canada, if you're Hydro-Quebec, I think Hydro-Quebec said they got 300 people on their cyber security team. I think you're probably looking at maybe hiring more and making sure that the people that you have on staff have even better training, are really up on the latest threats, because unfortunately it evolves literally by the day. We've got to be prepared.
Okay.
I love this next
I want to
story.
make sure we get this next one in. So Tesla.
Yeah, well, hold on. Attention all Tesla owners. Okay.
Those cameras are capturing more than they're supposed to. And even worse, employees were sharing compromising pictures. Tell us more. What's going on here,
CARMI?
So
if you buy a Tesla, of course, it has cameras all over the place. It has something called Sentry Mode. While it's parked, you'll know if someone bumps into your car because you've got the footage, which is amazing. However, all of that data, that imagery is also shared with Tesla, and Tesla says that they do so because they use all that information to help them improve the way the cars perform, improve the artificial intelligence, improve the autonomy, and all that.
Yeah.
The problem here is, between 2019 and 2022, employees were taking that information, weren't just using it to improve the way the systems work. They were finding funny videos of naked people walking through their garages or doing things they probably shouldn't or didn't know they were doing on camera. And they were putting memes on them and adding music to them and swapping them on the internal messaging system of the company.
Oh, good
Okay,
God.
so in case you own one of those cars between 2019 and 2022, who knows? If you're doing some weird stuff in your garage, they might know.
You're famous.
How do you find this, by the way? Are they destroying all this, or what goes on here now?
It was discovered because some of the employees, they didn't just share them internally. It got out of their internal Slack channel. Of course, it always does. And then someone was able to trace it back. And so, the company has been asked to comment on it. Of course, Tesla no longer has a media relations team. They canceled that. If you reach out to Tesla with a question, what you get back is the same thing you get back from Twitter. You get a poop emoji message. So
kidding.
They're not commenting, even though their employees have been having lots of fun with your data. So if you have a Tesla, probably put a tarp on top of it. If your neighbor has a Tesla, keep in mind it could be spying on you, even if it's in the driveway next to your house. You may want to watch what you're doing when you're in eyesight of it.
Or maybe put a tarp on yourself. CARMI Levy, our CTV tech analyst. Thank you, CARMI.
CARMI.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you next week.